From Nairobi to Kampala and Dar es Salaam, the space for activism is shrinking fast. In June 2025, Kenyan activist Boniface Mwangi and Ugandan lawyer Agatha Atuhaire were arrested in Tanzania, detained without a charge and allegedly tortured before being dumped at border crossings. Now, their stories echo a disturbing regional pattern: secret detentions and political repression and shrinking civil liberties. As opposition voices are silenced and freedom of expression comes under siege, one question remains: when sovereignty becomes a shield from state violence, who will stand for justice?
In East Africa, courage comes with a steep price. Those who dare to speak out are hunted, silenced, or erased. From Nairobi to Dar es Salaam, Kampala to Arusha, a coordinated shadow falls, one that thrives on silence. Voicing dissent in East Africa is becoming a dangerous crime. In June 2025, Kenyan activist Boniface Mwangi and Ugandan lawyer Agatha Atuhaire were arrested in Tanzania while attending opposition leader Tundu Lissu's treason trial. And despite no formal charges against them, they were held incommunicado and reportedly tortured before being deported and abandoned at border points.
So they told me, we have recorded these videos so that if you go back to your country and you say what we did to you, we shall put them online and shame you, and your kids will see this, your family will see this, everyone will see this. So,
hands of people that are supposed to protect citizens. But this person, that guy that was, we later to learned his name to be Faustin Mafere, called thugs to pick us from a police station, from his custody, without a care of, I am untouchable, not just here in Tanzania, but everywhere.
Kenyan and Ugandan governments remained silent, signaling tacit acceptance of Tanzania's brutal clampdown.
Uganda, they kidnap people, they torture people also. It's not a secret. But at least they kidnap you from a street so that no one knows who exactly is responsible for this. And many times they would deny, no, we don't know where he is or where she is. Here, the public officials were not afraid at all of being the ones to call thugs, to send us to thugs to do what they did to us.
Uganda did not speak out for Agatha Atuhaire. Kenya spoke for not Mwangi, really, but against Boniface Mwangi, and supported Suluhu's torture machine. So it is important for Boniface Mwangi and Agatha Atuhaire to sue the three countries in the East African Court of Justice.
But what we tell them is that security agencies are like a saw. A saw cuts in front and backwards. Today, it's your neighbor's daughter who has been raped and you're celebrating it and defending it. Tomorrow, that saw will turn backwards to yourself. Be ready for it.
Deportation and detention have also become common tactics to silence dissent. On May 18, 2025, Kenyans Martha Karua, Gloria Kimani and Lynn Ngugi arrived in Tanzania to observe the treason trial of Tanzanian opposition leader Tundu Lissu. Within hours, Tanzanian authorities detained and deported them back to Kenya.
We'll be suing them in the East African Court of Justice because this is a violation of the treaty. The treaty is not about heads of states. It's about the citizens of East Africa. Ease of movement of people, ease of trade. Deportation is for criminals and people who have committed offenses. What offense or what danger did we pose to the people of Tanzania in going to observe a public trial?
prison. We've been stopped here at the airport.
The following day, former Kenyan Chief Justice Willy Mutunga and human rights activist Hussein Khalid and Hanifa Adan faced the same fate, detained from 2 a.m. and swiftly deported.
We felt that perhaps it's political. Of course, Martha Karua has announced herself she wants to vie for elections. So the team I was with, particularly the former Chief Justice Willy Mutunga and Hanifa Aden, the activist, we felt that, us not being politicians and merely human rights activists and lawyers and all that, then there would be absolutely nothing to, warrant our deportation.
But what authorities have invoked was the narrative of foreign interference.
Hatutatoa nafasi kwa kiumbe yoyote kuja kutuvurugia hapa. Awe yupo ndani au anatoka nje. Hatutatoa hiyo nafasi.
Framing activists as external agents intent on destabilizing national sovereignty.
Nilitoa msaada kwa marafiki ambao walikuwa wakija kuingia Tanzania, lakini kwa wale marafiki ambao nawafahamu kwamba hawana madhara katika nchi yetu, singetoa tu kwa mtu yeyote, na walikuja wakaondoka salama kabisa. Hawakufanya jambo lolote la kuweza kuiathiri nchi na hawakuathirika.
There is absolutely nothing to meddle about in Tanzania, and what we simply wanted to ensure is that our presence is felt and that the courts of justice deliver a fair ruling. That is it. I don't know why they say we are meddling in the process, and if there's anything that we've done, we would like very much to hear from them the mistake that was committed.
We are meant to feel at home in each and every country in the region, but for a leader to speak boldly like that about other activists from sisterly, neighborly countries and actually act ruthlessly on them, that is horrible. That I feel horrified, and I am worried that for a leader to speak that way, it means this is an agreed trend by the leaders in the region.
Across the borders in Uganda, at the Luzira Maximum Prison, Kizza Besigye has been a guest of the Ugandan state, remanded for more than 180 days mandatory in jail without charges, sparking outrage. On the evening of November 16, 2024, Kizza Besigye was in Nairobi, attending Martha Karua's book launch. Unbeknownst to him, it would quickly turn into a nightmare. With no formal extradition process followed, no legal protocols observed, Besigye was driven across the Kenya-Uganda border under cover of darkness, and on November 20th, Besigye appeared before a military court in Kampala.
We are not surprised, because these are instructions issued from the Commander-in-Chief to deliver bogus rulings.
Charged with national security offences, including unlawful possession of firearms and alleged attempts to undermine the Ugandan's People Defence Forces.
It was so clear that Museveni's police or mercenaries were assisted by Ruto's mercenaries, because there's no way mercenaries can cross over the border, come into Nairobi, in the capital of Kenya, and nab one of the biggest voices, opposition leaders in Uganda, and cross with him back to Uganda without being stopped at the border or being asked any questions.
Meanwhile, in neighboring Tanzania, Tundu Lissu's treason trial has drawn regional and international attention.
Tumekubaliana na tumepoteza pesa nyingi, tumepoteza mpaka uhai wa watu kwa sababu ya mchakato wa katiba. Kwa hiyo ukurasa hauwezi kurukwa. Hatuwezi kwenda kusoma ukurasa mwingine kabla tuliofungua hatujausoma. Kwa hiyo ni katiba mpya, yani katiba ya watu inahitajika, na tumeshakubaliana na tumeshaigharamia mpaka kwa damu. Kwa hiyo ukurasa huo haurukwi Na kama kubeti tumebeti, sasa hamna ku cash out. Tuangalie matokeo mwisho atakuwaje.
Arrested in April 2025 after calling for electoral reforms ahead of the October elections, Lissu faces capital charges widely viewed as politically motivated. Till now, his trial has unfolded amid heavy security and suppression of supporters with documented police brutality.
We are fighting against a conspiracy between the three presidents where they have agreed to torture, to imprison, and to disappear East Africans.
So the promise of regional integration in East Africa, enshrined in the East African Community Treaty and upheld by the East African Court of Justice, stands at a precarious crossroads. While these frameworks articulate a vision of free movement, shared justice and collective human rights protection, their practical enforcement seemingly remains elusive.
Because the makers of the Constitution knew the history, of human rights violations and all that. And you'll find that the Bill of Rights is enshrined in the Tanzanian Constitution, it's in the Ugandan Constitution. What is surprising is that these governments do not seem to realize that human rights are a guarantee. They feel that allowing human rights to thrive is a favor that they do onto the masses. It's not a favor. It's the law.
What we must expect of governments, not just Western European governments or American governments, but even African governments, is that they will speak out when they see violations taking place. And it is important for Kenya to also speak out when they see these violations taking place.
The question that arises is whether sovereignty is a shield to suppress dissent or a responsibility to uphold justice beyond borders. Many active citizens say the future of East African democracy may well hinge on how the question is answered.
The regional mechanisms tend to operate where there is, I guess, there has been a failure or a breakdown at the national level, and therefore they take time to get going. But I think, as we know, this work is not it's not like TikTok or like Facebook where you just scroll. It actually takes time, and therefore lining up these processes is as important as looking for immediate response from a national mechanism. But ultimately, where the national criminal justice systems do not work, it is to the region that we must turn, and then it is to the international.
According to Human Rights Watch, in July 2024, at least 45 protesters were detained in Kampala during anti-corruption rallies. Meanwhile, individuals criticizing government officials online have been arrested and charged with hate speech, including a TikTok user sentenced to 6 years in prison for insulting the president and his family. While in Kenya in 2024, more than 600 protesters were arbitrarily arrested and detained during demonstrations against government policies.
People's rights, we've written to the African Union, and we expect them to take action. One thing for sure is we want to let those officers who are responsible for the torture to know that it's not over. If they're seated where they are thinking they've gotten away with it, we assure you, you have not.
However, data on Tanzania remains limited.
Mimi nilishakaa kwenye kituo cha polisi bila kuambiwa kwa nini upo hapa, na nimeitwa kirafiki tu kwa jina langu, njoo sehemu fulani, ingia, njoo bwana tukuone hivi na hivi. Bwana nilipo hivi, lakini njoo tu, hamna wasiwasi. Mtu anajifanya rafiki yako, na ndio wale rafiki zetu, umeona. Kwa hiyo unakwenda unakamatwa, halafu chumba unachowekwa kinahamishwa kila kitu ili ukae wewe peke yako. Na unapokuta kuna watu wengine nao wanahamishwa, unaanza kujisikia ina maana mimi ni mbaya kuliko hawa jamaa hawa. Alafu unawekwa, alafu unauliza nimefanya nini? Sababu gani ilionileta hapa? Utaambiwa. Kwa hiyo unawekwa ndani, unapita saa moja, masaa mawili, matatu, manne, matano, sita, mpaka 8. Na mbaya zaidi, kuna mtu anakuja anafungua, anakuangalia, anatoka.
Despite grave risks, activists persist in their struggle for human rights. Some, like Vitalis Maembe, have been forced into exile from Tanzania to Nairobi.
Kwa sababu pia mimi nilishawahi kupigwa na polisi. Sio mara moja. Nilishawahi kukamatwa na ndugu zangu walipokuwa wakinitafuta waliambiwa hayupo hapa. Kwa hiyo na mengine mengi tu. Na si mara moja. Na baada ya matukio hayo haikuandikwa hata kwenye gazeti.
East Africa stands at a crossroad. The courage to speak out is costly, but the fight for justice and democracy is far from over.
By boldly introducing myself as an activist, that is a choice that I have made to stand up for what I believe in. And it's unfortunate that sometimes the price that you pay is horrible.
When you keep talking, at least you will be taken while talking and kicking. So you have no option but to speak. I have no fear. There is no way you can have fear when you know that you're speaking the truth. There is no way that you can have fear when you know that you're fighting for rights. There is no way you can fear to speak for your people.
Kuwa mwanaharakati katika nchi kama ya Tanzania sio kazi ndogo, ni kazi ngumu. Lakini nategemea na una malengo gani. Mimi binafsi kupambana kuipigania nchi yangu na kupigania haki yangu mwenyewe. Sijawahi kumuonea mtu aibu wala kuogopa.
Sisi ni Afrika. Ni Afrika. Sisi ni Afrika, Afrika we, sisi ni Afrika, Afrika, Afrika huru.
Sheila Chelangat for TV 47.
Mimi ni Afrika, wewe ni Afrika, Afrika o.
Thank you so much.